Welcome to this session on explaining and identifying fake news articles and the websites that host them. We are your hosts, Laura Racine and Caitlin Mangan from the high school instructional staff at Penn Foster. During this session, you will learn several strategies for determining whether a news article is completely or partially fake and resources for getting truthful information. Let's start with examining what fake news is and why it exists. The number one reason is for views. The sources want their articles viewed and shared all over social media, and they will publish anything at all to share it. There are millions of Twitter accounts run by bots that will share these fake stories. The accounts are run by a computer program, not a person, so they can gather and share stories quickly. For example, after the shooting at Parkland School District, millions of Twitter accounts were sharing pictures of people who weren't even there. The accounts were claiming these people were missing family members because people will share stories with very emotional topics. This happens whenever there's a national tragedy or controversial news event. Sometimes the goal is also to gain support for one side of a political, social, or scientific issue. A fake news story that makes people mad is an entry to get those people on one side of that issue. So even if the story is false, they've gained a supporter on their side. Some stories are really extreme, and a skeptical person would assume that they are fake. You'll know it's fake if you read an article headline claiming to have proof of a tap dancing alien making burgers in the kitchen of your local diner, but sometimes it's not that easy to tell. Many articles report on a real event, but they twist it. It sounds believable because most of the story really happened, but they claim people said things that they didn't, or they change the events of the story, or they put together a cause and effect that are not really related. An example of this would be Pizzagate, a conspiracy theory that made the rounds in 2016. Basically, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager had his emails hacked and distributed through WikiLeaks, and a theory emerged that the emails contained coded messages related to human trafficking. This was proven to be false, but not until after this rumor was widely spread. This type of twisting of the stories especially happens with political news. Partisan websites, meaning a website that supports Democrats or a website that supports Republicans, frequently do this. And this can make it very hard to tell what is true and what isn't. So we're going to give you some strategies for finding it out. Many news sources are partisan, again, meaning they come from a Republican or Democratic point of view. So if you're reading any news related to politics, don't read articles just from one biased news source. Try using allsides.com, which offers 3 articles on any topic, one from a conservative source, a liberal source, and a neutral source. For all news, political or otherwise, try perspecnews.com, a great website where you look up a topic and it gives you 3 articles, one pro, one con, and one neutral. So this site here is All Sides, and this is the one that shows 3 different views of any different article. So you could see this one about Elon Musk. It's got from the center, which means kind of neutral, from the right, which would be from the conservatives, and from the lefts, which would be from the liberal point of view. And you can see they have that for all of the different topics they have here. So for anything that is, politically biased, you can check and see what the other side has to say. If you don't have time to read several articles, you can avoid really biased news sources and instead read neutral sources. Local newspapers tend to be fairly neutral as long as you stay away from the editorials. And ABC, CBS, and BBC are generally considered less biased than some other news sources. The problem with bias in the news is that biased news only portrays one side of the story and often leaves the reader thinking there is no other side. If you've heard a bit about any issue and you think it's one-sided and it only has one right answer, take a look at the issue on this site, procon.org, which lists pros and cons that you might not have thought about. Now we will look at strategies for determining if a news story is fake. I'm going to go through a few and then turn it over to Caitlin to finish it up. And our first strategy is don't trust news stories shared on social media. A Twitter or Facebook account is not a legitimate news source. Instead, when you see a story on social media, find the same story on a real news site that you trust. To do this, go to your favorite news outlet's website and search for it there. Real news will be reported from many major official news sources. They may show bias, but they don't usually completely make things up. So search for the same topic on one or a few of these news sites or any other news outlet that you trust. The next strategy is to beware of fake news sites disguising themselves as real sites. Look at the web address. abcnews.com.co is not ABC News, and cnnnews3.com is not CNN. If it ends in .go or .co or has numbers in it, it is probably a fake. However, do keep in mind that other countries have abbreviations at the end, so if you're looking at a Canadian news source, their website may end in .ca, but it may still be reliable. Sometimes the fake websites will take a word from the name of the real site and switch a few letters, so read the address carefully. The way that these sites is disguised is always changing. So if you aren't sure whether to trust it, start by going to the real website. You can find it on Google if you're not sure what their web address is, and then use the search feature on the site to look for the news story. For example, if you see a site from ABC News 23 that says a senator wants to hang a disco ball from the ceiling in the White House, that sounds a bit suspicious. So what you can do is Google ABC News's real website and then search on their site for the name of the senator and disco ball. And if you don't see anything relevant that comes up, then you know, okay, it's not a real news story from the real site. And also just beware that there are satire sites online, things like The Onion and Politico.com. They look like news stories, but none of the stories are real. So you can check that out by seeing what other stories are on the websites, because usually there's some that sound completely ridiculous. We're looking at the About Us page on the site, and they'll often tell you that it's satire. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to make Caitlin the presenter.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Caitlin, and I'm going to pick up with strategy number 3. Okay, so strategy number 3 is going to be to use fact checkers. There are several websites that have probably already done the work for you and researched the story already. For example, there's Snopes.com. This is a general fact checking website, so it's great for checking hoaxes and fake viral stories. There's also factcheck.org. This is a nonpartisan nonprofit project that monitors the factual accuracy of what is said by U.S. political players. And then politifact.com. This is a Pulitzer Prize winning website that rates the accuracy of claims by elected officials. It features different things like the truthometer, and that's going to rate statements as true, mostly true, half true, false, or pants on fire.
And PolitiFact is another site that we talked about because it checks the truth of different articles. So if you find an article, you can try to find the same thing on PolitiFact, and it'll tell you how true it is. Mostly true, false, false. You could see that, there's some here that are marked half true, completely true, and so that helps you to determine, how much of it you should believe. And fortunately, there's none on here marked pants on fire, but those are ones that are completely made up.
Strategy number 4 is to beware of photoshopped images. To check where an image came from, you could do a reverse image search. For example, this image, which shows two Olympic stars eating snow, it looks like. So if you use Chrome as your browser, all you'll need to do is right click on an image and select Search Google. So for example, if I click on this, it's going to bring up the Google search for me. And you'll see this comes from The Onion. US wins gold in couples snow eating, which is not a real sport. Strategy number 5 is to check up on the author or the group that published it. Check the mission of the group or website for what their purpose may be. If they are selling something, supporting one political viewpoint, or putting down one political or social group, they're likely to be very biased. Remember that getting web traffic is also a primary reason for writing fake news. The more people that click on their link, the more money they get. So some sites will write anything to get views. Beware of sites that claim that they have the true stories that mainstream news won't tell you. These sites are usually just trying to build followers so that they can sell something or get ad revenue. Check contact information given in the article. Are the author and people mentioned in the article actual people? Or are they experts in the field? You could try searching the author's name or the names of any experts cited in Google to see if you get any significant results. If not, try searching for their names on LinkedIn or even Twitter. Many official journalists have verified Twitter profiles and sizable followings, which are a couple of things to look out for. Strategy number 6 is going to be check the details. So you want to make sure that you're reading the whole story and not just the headline. Headlines are meant to elicit curiosity or an emotional response. They are often very dramatic and very drastic, but then the story itself has very little substance. If the story has a quote, a statistic, scientific study, or political action, such as a new law proposed or congregational votes, these should be very easy to verify with other resources. There are other ways that big corporations are helping as well. Following the Las Vegas shooting in October of 2017, YouTube changed its algorithm to show true news stories as opposed to sharing hoaxes. So they're going to be the first things that you see on your YouTube page when you search for these things as opposed to just fake news. Google has stopped showing some identified fake news sites in its search results altogether. And in February of 2018, after the Parkland shooting, Google, which owns YouTube, removed several videos which were marked as hoaxes and that they claimed violated the company's policy on harassment. These steps are helping to make fake news videos and fake information less visible on the internet, but it is still out there. It's up to users to consider the information carefully before sharing it. And here's a challenge for you guys. Can you identify the fake news story? If you'd like to practice, you can go to this website, factitious.com, and that's going to give you a couple different news stories, and you could decide if they're fake or if they're real.
So factitious is a game where you can try to determine whether articles are true or false. So I just clicked on the first one, Indonesian man's body found inside of a python. So what you do is you read through it, you look for different clues. You can show the source. So you click show source, it'll tell you what website it came from. And then you could use that to determine whether it's true or false. So for example, I think Caitlin looked pretty skeptical of this until I clicked BBC Indonesia and now is confused because we think this is a true story. So if you read through the whole thing, it gives you different facts. You can try to look it up. It gives you some names of places and people. And if you click on this one, we're going to find out that is actually true. So you can learn some weird news and also help yourself determine what's true and false. And I'm just going to click false on this one without reading it. And it tells me I'm wrong. Apparently that was true too. So definitely check that out.
And that's going to bring us to the end of our presentation.
All right, so everybody have a great day and be sure to attend some of our other webinars on our classes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.